Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Rich Clark, Guide to the Right Path. So this week I'm talking about relationships, pre-engagement and dating. And as you can see here, I'm going to talk about the next topic, which is about when early dating stage. So already I've done a video, which is about pre-dating and getting to know each other, but this is the early dating age. Dating stage, not age, stage. So anyway, as you can see here, this is a couple arguing. And I'm not going to point because I'm getting my mixtures with my mirrors of mirror image. So as you can see, one person here is in conflict and one person is conflict avoidance. Won't deal with it. Very common in relationships, especially in dating and engagement. So what I'm going to do is talk about again the problem and the solution to that. So first of all, for early dating stage is defining the relationship. It is very much something a lot of people struggle with. And this is the when and how to have the talk about exclusivity. Now, it's very different in different cultures. So for example, some of my friends who live in New York have told me, oh, I'm dating this person, I'm dating that person, and then they're dating that person. In fact, a friend of mine, actually, he was engaged. He was engaged to someone, and in the end, when the engagement stopped, she, within about 2 months, got engaged to someone else and got married. I mean, so clearly she was obviously doing more than one relationship. So again, the idea of the talk about exclusivity is very important. And I think it is very much about being honest and being understanding with each other about how that works. So that's also about how you come across and how you present yourself. And so sometimes what we do, and we all make this, I think men make this a mistake more than women, is that sometimes we will talk to someone friendly and our partner sees that as that we're flirting or sees it as something is disrespectful. And we have to understand that. So what we have to learn about is, so this talk about exclusivity is when you have done dating, pre-dating, you're getting to know each other, and then you definitely want to be exclusive, be honest. And if you don't want to be exclusive, get out. Because if you're not really wanting to be exclusive, and you're always got what we call a wandering eye or a revolving eye, never going to work. Because it's always going to cause patterns of problems later on down the field. Getting engaged, getting married, having children, whatever that is, because the families also will get more involved, and that can cause even more issues. So the problem of this having this talk about exclusivity again, if you have built up a foundation of honesty in the relationship and you have an easy way of communicating, these like these two here, you won't have these type of arguments very often. And being honest is key. So the solution to that problem is you've got to have that talk. And if you don't have that talk, or it's always avoidance, usually that would be a red flag. Sorry to put it, mildly or abruptly, but I'm like I said in the other video, I'm very direct in the way of how I communicate. So the next one is integration with social circles. And this is when you're meeting friends and family and how that goes. Now, this can be, I'm also doing a video about relationships within the families of people, and this can be incredibly difficult. From personal experience, I think sometimes meeting some of my partner's friends or my girlfriend's friends has been really difficult. And then meeting family can be very different. And this is where cultural understandings, misalignment in backgrounds or beliefs, comfort zones, all sorts of things can really come up and cause many people problems. So this is the biggest thing I would give anybody advice, being a man or even telling women, is this. If you're going to meet your friends' friends, your partner's friends or family, don't judge, just sit back and observe. And if you're starting to see things in their friends' behavior and you're seeing things in their family's behavior, you've observed and you think, well, the partner you're with isn't picking them up on it, or they're not apologizing to you about their behavior if it's inappropriate. These are sort of things you've got to look at. And I think what usually most people want to do is there's such an approval thing within this. And so the solution is you want approval. The person is your partner wants approval from you that the people, their friends and their family, the friends they have, they've picked correctly. They've chosen the right friends who are loyal or going to help them. And their family can be one of two things. Their family is actually part of their grounding and stability. And if they do come from a family which is fractured, there's also going to be some stability and there's going to be some disruption. And it's about how you are going to deal with that. So it's not only about when you're, well, this is the idea of actually when I lived in India, it's when you learn is people get these arranged marriages, and in the West we think arranged marriages are terrible, but it's because they understand that the friends and their family, they understand the alignments and beliefs. There's no misalignment. It's very clear. And I think this is where people have got to understand that there's reasons why some people don't mix for many reasons, but this always has to be. But if the love is there and the commitment is there and the intention is there, then there should be no problems. So the solution is observe, watch, and see, and take note, and then also talk about it, communicate. Not in front of the family or friends, though. Always do it away. Never talk about the friends or family in front of them, because if someone overhears, it can cause a big ruckus in a family or a gathering. From experience, I'm just going to leave it at that. Time commitment issues. So balancing the relationships with other life priorities. Now, the first time when you're in a relationship, or when you're in a relationship, it can be very amazing, overwhelming. It's like you can't think, got this person on your mind every single hour of the day, every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every month, every year. It could get like that. And that's great if you've been given a load of money to live off the rest of your life and you don't have any worries. But then you have other life priorities. You have your work, you have your business, you have your personal relationship when you're not in that relationship, with your friends, with your associates. These, again, is all linked to another word: boundaries. So the balancing the relationship with other life priorities is to assert time periods, assert time, and have that discipline. And that is very much is the solution, is having discipline in to know when time is of a relationship and the time of when your life priorities are. And so, for example, if you know your work is over, don't ever plan like a date night or something when you've got loads of work on, or you're going to be overworking at a time. That from experience. That's just carelessness. That's just stupidity. The idea is so you always look at that when you're in a relationship, you're in that relationship and it's there. It's there. There's nothing going to disturb it. There's nothing going to permutate it or ruin it. And then when you're in your life priority of your work or whatever that is, that should be also aligned with that. And I think that's why sometimes being in a couple, being in a business can be really problematic. Again, from experience, I will say this is very tough. And I think sometimes we have to understand that even when you do family or anything like that, is that we have to understand that everybody's an individual. And though you're part of a collective of consciousness in that respect, is to understand where that works. So it goes into this next one: communication patterns, learning how to resolve conflicts constructively, not like these two behind us, right? Talking when something is a problem or in alignment or out of alignment, is to sit down and talk calmly. And if that means that it can be, okay, we need to talk about this situation. We need to talk about how this is dealt with. We need to talk about how your behavior has responded to this action, or what is triggering you, what is causing you to react this way. And sitting down, talking in a very open, giving space for someone, but open-ended conversation is really useful. And that is probably the best of communication patterns, because if you start shouting, especially someone who is conflict avoidance, if they've been brought up in a conflict house, they probably were the type of person who shut themselves away because they couldn't stand the turmoil. And if you're sensitive, you do pick up people's energy. If people are arguing, you're just like, oh, I've got to get out of here. This is too much for me. So you've got to understand. And then there's some people they really get off on arguing and losing their temper. It's like a fire, like boiling inside, like rising for the phoenix of the ashes. Like that Incredible Hulk feeling. That's why I've got the Incredible Hulk t-shirt on today. It was to do with this, to show about how our duality works. And so this also is very important to understand about how we deal with it. So the solution is talk calmly, talk in a manner of understanding and openness and truthfulness. And that is, if you're actually in the early data stage, you should start building that up to the point, because if you are going to get in a serious relationship, as the next video will explain about, that's going to be crucial. Next one: physical intimacy timeline, managing different expectations about physical aspects. So what does that mean? When would the first person kiss? When would they feel? Some people believe that they have intercourse when they get married. Some people do not. Some people have, what certain things is appropriate. In some countries, like for example, you cannot hold hands in front of people. I mean, there's some countries you just can't, as a couple, you can't hold hands. So these are sort of things you have to understand. And then also different religions have different aspects of what is appropriate touch. And other people, a bit more open. Again, this is about the understanding. And again, this is about your matching in the backgrounds or beliefs. So how do you manage these different expectations, physical aspects? Well, communicate again. You know, you're not just going to be, in the throes of the moment, and you decide you're going to put your hands somewhere or put something somewhere, and it's inappropriate, and the person goes, "Oh, didn't expecting that. Oh, that's a bit too much." You've got to communicate. Everything has got to be about communication. Sorry, I mean that's a very visual thing to think, but that is, I think, this is why I can see it in humor, but I understand it from another perspective because I think it can be very inappropriate and also just not right. You've just got to know there's always what they call, when's the right moment. And if you feel that moment needs to be looked at or adhered to or understood, then you must do that. I think it's very vitally important. And the vulnerability challenges, opening about deeper feelings, insecurities. So you can be with somebody in a relationship, and one person can be very direct, very open, very much tells you everything to the point that you think, "Well, this is just a bit too much." Or you get someone, they just say enough, and they're working on it. They're working on understanding it, opening up and to understand how they feel. And because they've been hurt. People are hurt beings. They do get hurt a lot, So it's like give them time to express their insecurities and express their feelings to you, and listen. Just take a time back. Don't just be over verbalizing. Listen, just listen. Go into your space. Calm back. Give them open space and let them. And they would, and people do when they talk about their deeper feelings, it's like they're opening a book, they're opening themselves to you, and it's very important to understand that and to understand it and just really be deep in that kind of meditative state of understanding of like, how can you help? And that's the solution is listen to these deep things and insecurities from someone or yourself. Is They are part of your healing. They're part of the idea when you're in a relationship that if you can get over these things and understand that, then you can conquer anything. You can be that power couple. You can be that power people. And deeper things and insecurities can match along many different things. I'm talking about the relationships. People may think I'm just talking about, one type of relationship. I'm not. I'm talking about many different types of relationships. This can go across the board. And you've got to understand these things. So when someone says, and this actually goes into backgrounds, if someone says they feel prejudice against, and you're a different race or different, or you feel like, there's an issue that they've, how they felt in an environment, you can't just be like, "Oh, stop being silly, stop being and being dismissive." You've got to listen to the person, understand, and try and understand from their perspective. Put yourself in their shoes. Very important. And the last one of this is everyday compatibility. So discovering habits, preferences, and routines that may clash. So, habits are very much can be something can actually break or break relationships. Preferences, I'm sorry, I only like to do this on this. I only like to eat this, or I only like to do this, or I like to be in this type of mood. And then the routines of actually when we got a routine is that they clash is like to understand that so if someone's very devoted to something, what they do when they've been single and before you, don't try and ruin that. You've got to understand that they had a life before you, and don't think that, well, now you're with me, you don't need to do that. Yes, people need to have, because what the idea of any relationships is two individuals get together and combine as one, and they actually are stronger as a unit, but they also are these individuals. And people get this wrong so much they end up like, they get together and then they do this and they forget who they were here and they forget who they were, and then there's all this clashing and it all bubbles up eventually because this one person's trying to put this person down, and the other person's trying to like impose themselves, or they want to keep breaking through to this, and they go, no, bringing them back. It's like Scorpion in Mortal Kombat, bringing the person with the spear and bringing them back. It's that kind of, we've got to understand about the compatibility and how that works. And it's incredibly key to just understand that we are individual sovereigns, we are individual, and that's how we can work. So that problem, discovering habits, preferences. And the solution is understand that you're both individuals and that when you're together in the relationship, that makes you, more whole, more complete, but still you can be an individual. And that doesn't mean because you're an individual going out with your friends that, oh, you're looking at other women and you're doing this, or you're looking at other partners. If you're a woman, you're looking at other men, or if you're looking at whoever it is, or whatever they want to, whatever identity people have. We've got to understand that there's still this thing that, people, if someone likes to be social, don't just think because you're in a relationship, oh, you can't be doing your social thing anymore, like you were when you're single. No, no. That person, they sometimes, the extrovert of people, they like being out of people. And if you're and you're with someone who's an introvert, they may not like people, but learn to accept, because also when there is the introverted moments, they will accept what you want as well. Acceptance and that forgiveness and gratitude of what that person brings to your life is incredibly important. So that would be my solution about your compatibility: is work on that and find, not everything, again, you don't have to like everything. The old saying in the Paul Abdul song, "But opposites attract," where she's dancing with that cartoon cat. I mean, it's it's a bit of a silly 90s song, but it's got a lot of meaning. So if you're having any of these issues in the dating stage, please contact me at www.richclark.net for a free discovery call, and then we can talk about things that we can work with and how we work with that, and look at the timeline of how that's affecting your current relationship in the early dating stage, and then we can work from there. So until then, I shall speak to you soon.